a whole?
Oh, Jack to be at the finish line, so to speak, but the work doesn't stop. Obviously, like I just articulated, with our UDFA process coming to a close, we're at 88 on the roster. Obviously, got a couple spots open that we'll look to fill here in the near future, but certainly appreciate such a collaborative effort from so many different people, so many different departments to bring this all to life, to make it so that we felt like we were making the best decisions for the organization moving forward, and really looking forward to what comes next and seeing the group of rookies get out on the grass with their teammates and begin making an impact here in Jacksonville.
Heard you mention Tootin as one. Tootin was one of the guys you wanted to be a priority. You came in during the interview process and mentioned him. The list, how many of those guys that you maybe mentioned as priority day 3 guys during the interview process did you end up landing?
It's a good question. I don't know. If memory serves me correct, maybe 2, but none of maybe 3.
You said 3.
Yeah. So with that, I mean, those are things that you're projecting and aren't always accurate. That's pre-combine, which typically testing is going to play a major part in where a player ends up getting selected. So I must say, once Tootin ran that 40, I don't know that I would have guessed that he'd be available on day 3.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he found himself there taking off pretty quickly at 104, and so we were jacked to be able to be in that position to prioritize him because, at the end of the day, we want to level up the competition across the entirety of the roster, and running back's a spot that we're going to lean on. And as Liam can probably allude to, it's so rarely just a one-person spot, right? It's going to take a collective effort, just like the draft did. And we look forward to the group as a whole, in addition to Quinn, coming in and making this thing as rounded as it possibly can be. It's a good question.
Kaiser.
We got Jack Kaiser there and Monheim. So,
James, most NFL teams and GMs would probably say that as much as you'd like to, you can't get to everything in the NFL, in your NFL draft.
I know where you're going.
So, why was that area not able to be addressed, and will it be when you announce whoever your undrafted free agents are?
Yeah, I think short answer to that is the board always falls certain ways, and you're not going to reach because of what might be a perceived need. So you're always going to take the players that you feel like are going to put the team in the best interest moving forward. And you don't want to ever sort of lean heavily into just one idea of best player available and need. It's some version of balanced dynamic that comes with that. So I do think you'll see us make some moves here in the near future that will in fact address that. Obviously our undrafted college free agents haven't been announced, but those positions were certainly close to filled there, and we'll look towards the pro free agent landscape as well.
You haven't announced it, but Memphis announced on Twitter that you were signing Seth Hanigan, their quarterback. Can you at least talk about him, because very highly productive player?
Yeah, we've agreed to terms, and Liam can probably speak to it a little bit more than I can. He poured into that stuff rather recently, and obviously with us making that move, it's certainly somebody that we would like to develop.
A coach's kid, right? He's got a ton of production, does have a natural stroke, and seems like he's a great kid. He's just trying to get better and better, so felt like it was a good ad for us at the time.
I think at your opening press conference, you said, how do we make this offense and Trevor Lawrence as dynamic and as explosive as possible?
Yeah.
So taking in free agency and now through the draft, do you feel you've got there or gotten there, and how much further do you think maybe you need to go?
Yeah, I think we've definitely addressed the ability to strike from a distance. I think that's something that, we struggled to do a little bit last year in Tampa, where you ended up having to go 10, 12 play drives a lot, and it was efficient, right? But ultimately you're looking to be as explosive as you can in both the run and the pass. And I think that was definitely addressed in both pro free agency and in the college draft landscape. So don't think we have to add any more at this point.
It seemed like a lot of these players, or actually all of them except for Travis, went to the Senior Bowl. Just how much did that play a role? Why did it seem like that sort of factored in? Was it just coincidence? And could you talk about the experience that all these guys come with? That's one.
And that added exposure from the All-Star circuit, it's certainly something we leverage. I mean, getting to see them throughout the week of practices and then in the game setting. So many of the guys that are willing to do more than what the norm might be, right? Many are tapping out before they ever get to the game. And to see somebody like Jack Kaiser, opt into playing a position like safety when he is in fact an inside linebacker, when that could make him look worse than he would like, but was productive in that setting. I think back to, Braden Fisk. One of the things that really resonated for us was when during the game, the Senior Bowl, he said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and play defense on both sides, right? I'm gonna fill the gap because there have been too many opt-outs. These are guys that love the game of football, regardless of if it might put them in a compromising position in the eyes of evaluators and decision makers by playing too many snaps or playing out of position, etc. These guys love ball, and that's what we're hunting up.
And it seemed like a lot of these guys have a lot of experience, obviously. They played a lot of snaps. Was that something you guys wanted? Did you need them to have played a good bit of football before you drafted?
I think it's something we lean into. I don't know that it's exactly what we're prioritizing, but the fact that you can look back to some of the recent drafts that I've been a part of, and that's typically been the case because those guys walk in the door and they're fairly close to ready, right? I think because of the nuances that come with this game, reps are something that are important, and obviously with the guys that have done it for a little bit longer of a runway, it caters.
Point. I don't think you were at the Senior Bowl, Liam. I think you were hired like the week that it started.
Yeah.
So as far as leaning on that as a tool, as well as working with scouts that neither of you had worked with until 3-4 months ago, describe that process.
Yeah, I think so much of it is rooted in the film. At the same time, there's boots on the ground, so to speak, who do in fact interact with the players, interact with the coaches who are there, and sources who are there. So that is a well from a background and character touch point with the player, but the film is really where I'm talking about that evaluation being meaningful for us. And it's certainly something because it's best against best, right? Some of the top prospects against the other top prospects. It certainly, has a place, and it's one that we prioritize, that's for sure.
One more for me, Jalen McLeod. There were a lot of edge rushers still on the board at the point that he was taken. Why was he the one that you guys were hunting?
I think you guys can probably see this across a lot of the players that we selected, in particular on the defensive side of the ball, but the versatility, right? That's something that really stands out for us. And obviously, we speak about being intangibly rich, right? His competitiveness, his play demeanor, his urgency is phenomenal. And to take him, another who was deployed across the defensive front at Auburn, stood up off the ball. When he went to the Senior Bowl, all he did was stand up off the ball when one of the best elements of who he is being moved from one spot to the next and providing a spark, being able to gain an edge, a change of pace, rushing off the edge. That was one thing that, he signed up to do at the Senior Bowl and wasn't batting an eye at the fact that, hey, I don't get to showcase what so many would call my superpower, but I'm gonna do this anyway because I love this sport and I love getting out on the grass. Another thing here is when you think about it, right, one of the things I really value, I know Liam does the same, but when a guy goes from a small school to a big school and you see production continue to pop, that is a meaningful element. And that's something you can think back to guys that I've been a part of drafting in the past, right? Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner. Think about the guys today who have gone from a small school to a big school that we just walked away with, who are productive across both.
It's either for both of you or one of you, but you guys really built this identity of building a roster of intangibly rich, mentally and physically tough players. Do you guys feel like you did that with this rookie draft class?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was very clear with every pick that was the priority. I mean, you look across the board at these guys and you talk to the people that were in touch with them, whether it be the coaches, the personnel, their college coaches, their high school coaches. Tough resonates with all these guys, and guys that love football, that love the process, that drives the results, and so many captains out of this group and leaders and guys that have played a lot of snaps. So much of that was part of this whole process.
Are you able to share who one of those players may have been anecdotally?
On what front?
That the coach or the executive or scout was able to.
Oh, well, we ended up with a USC Trojan.
Yeah.
Probably guess who made that phone call.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of cool. So Josh Scobie, who's a former player in the NFL, he had a lot of heat for Lane out of Navy, and he made it known early in the process that he was someone he would like to see become a Jaguar. Now, if you haven't already done so, I would advise anybody to take the time to watch his special teams snaps because they are mighty enjoyable. But he was able to make that phone call to him and get that conversation started.
One for James, one for Liam. James, just with how things played out, the construction of the room, how big of a leap and what are you guys expecting from Mason Smith this year?
Yeah, I think that whole group is about to take a jump. They're working their tails off right now, and you can tell that there's a connective element that's coming to life in a short period of time. So we certainly look forward to seeing, I think, guys be in different positions than they've been in the past, and that being an element that activates, different sides of them. Their whole approach has been great so far, so we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And then Liam, just Tune and Allen, what do you think they can bring to the offense? How can they kind of maybe complement each other?
Yeah, I think if you look at Tootin with the ability to strike from a distance, right? You can get to the second or third level and score from anywhere on the field, right? I think behind the line of scrimmage, forced missed tackles was like through the roof for him, in terms of getting back or at least getting yards after that contact behind the line of scrimmage. And then you look at Allen, kind of a interesting player, can play a little bit of slot, move him into the backfield. Obviously, he had 1,000 yards over the last 2 years, and then he can catch the ball out of the backfield, good in the screen game, competitor, man. This guy loves to play, loves to compete, made some critical plays and some critical moments for Syracuse this past year on a team that was really good again. So excited about both those guys. I think both from New Jersey as well, right?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so.
If you're an offensive lineman that hasn't played multiple spots, can you earn a roster spot on this team?
I would like to think so. I mean, as long as you're mentally and physically tough, I think you got a chance.
I mean, you talked about obviously worrying about injuries and stuff, but when you've got guys that are playing all those multiple spots, is it hard to find spots for those guys? Does it get a little tougher? You know what I mean? Like when you're evaluating each guy?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. I mean, again, I can point back to, just the importance of the offensive line, and when you go through attrition that, you typically do throughout the course of a season, it can be debilitating if it ends up striking at that spot. That's just something that I don't want to sacrifice or put ourselves in jeopardy for, and it's going to be a spot that we'll always look to pour more resources into, and it's a great group, and I look forward to seeing those guys begin to form some version of cohesiveness, because it's often more than any one individual in particular at that position, and I think finding the best five that work in tandem is going to be a fun thing here over the course of the offseason and into the regular season.
Made up your mind on the 5th-year option on Devin Lloyd yet?
No, I don't think we have. We've been focused on the draft here over these last 3 days.
Gene, James or Liam, for either one of you, when you look at this, what happened with this team last year? 4-win season with a lot of key injuries to offensive players, not very good on defense, not enough takeaways, the whole bit. When you look at how this roster has not necessarily flipped, but certainly added to in the last 2 months with free agents and this draft, what are your expectations for this first year? I mean, obviously nobody's proclaiming you a Super Bowl contender just yet, but I'm curious as to how much better you feel like you've got between free agency and this draft.
I honestly haven't even thought that far. Honestly, it's really got to be a completely one day at a time approach. You're always feeling like you're adding levels of competition and depth to the roster is exactly what we did. We do feel like we got better and improved. We will not have a clue until we do this thing more than a week here, in terms of being on the grass, because we haven't even been able to truly play football yet. So the focus is so deeply rooted in the culture, the way that they're going to play, our style of play, teaching those elements, and now we have to go and get an entire rookie class onboarded. I mean, that's a lot of work, so the focus is so tight right now that probably haven't even thought that far ahead.
James, could you just talk about just the upgrade of just the players that you guys have taken in the, you know, the 19 guys or whatever it was that you guys have taken here in the last 2 months?
You know, I think bringing in competition is just a healthy thing for any football team. And, you know, I look forward to this group integrating with what we currently have on site. And, you know, I think it's going to be a beautiful process here over the off-season window. And I look forward to finally getting the pads on when we get the chance to do so, because, you know, there's nothing better than tackle football. And obviously, like Liam just alluded to, we have yet to see this group do that as a whole. And really, that'll show us a lot about what we're going to be here in the 2025 season.
Liam, first draft as an NFL head coach, was it different than you expected about what you thought you were going to experience going in?
Yeah, kind of about what I thought in a lot of ways. You know, I was fortunate enough in LA, right? Like you're in and out, and so you do get the workings of it and the feeling of it. But yeah, when it's ours and when it's this, you're a part of it in a different landscape. It was really cool. It was really cool to see this guy work. I mean, this is his Super Bowl, really, in a lot of ways. At first, I mean, this is the first Super Bowl that's happened for us. You know, really, he was unbelievable, and the communication, the resilience, the ability to move around this draft and navigate it the way he did, and the way these guys communicated was really fun to watch. So the work was done, and then he went and operated, and the staff went and operated at a high level, and it was really cool to see. It's really cool to see the guys, the players' responses, to hear that, because that's what it's all about. When you get them on the phone and you actually get to hear the response and make somebody's dream come true, that's what it's really all about.
Oh, LaQuint, he tapped it at the end there well. It was a special call. There's no doubt. He brought the juice.
Yeah.
And James, I know the undrafted free agent process, you said you wrapped it up. Without, I guess, sharing too much into your process, can you give us a peek into kind of what goes into that, what it looks like for you?
Yeah, once the bell rings and the draft is concluded, our coaching staff and our scouting staff who are paired together by position, they began making calls to agents to see if a player has interest in coming to Jacksonville, and began sort of walking through the idea of, hey, here's the current roster, here's a path that you can put yourself in to be competitive, whether it's to make the 53-man roster or the practice squad, and go from there to see if we can come to some agreement contractually.
About Wyatt or Caleb yesterday.
Yeah.
Just in terms of what they bring to the table, how do you feel about them? Obviously, Wyatt has played everywhere. Just things like that.
I think, like you said about Wyatt, is the ability to play multiple spots at a high level, and just the finish, the way the guy plays, the toughness. He's rooted in that, right? Like that's kind of what he prides himself on being. That's what he's kind of known for around that building, is being a guy that finishes, that plays the game the right way, that approaches it the right way. And he's a big dude. He's long. So, and then Caleb, man, this is somebody that you know we've been really excited about for the last few weeks here, especially. And you know, I worked with John Summerall at Tulane. I actually bought his house when I was living in Lexington, and so I got a little trust there. And but man, he's dynamic. You know, he can run. One of the better tacklers in this draft, and the leadership, the way that he communicates, the passion for the game. Again, those are the things that really stood out to me about those two guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.